think, what are the challenges India faces in terms of grid control and management?
Would you like to say something on this?
I think, yeah, in my opinion, smart grid would be the solution, and smart grid, and I would take a step forward, and as I said in my address, even the intelligent grid would be the solution. We have heard Dr. Mathur this morning, and it was very interesting to know that even the peak times are changing now. So we were under the impression all the time that afternoon is the peak time in summer when we have maximum requirement. But there is a new peak time which is midnight. So the midnight peak time is coming in from air conditioning in urban areas and semi-urban areas. So from that perspective, it is quite challenging to manage the grids. First, to manage the variations in peak times, and second, to manage the power variations, which is coming in 60% from conventional and 40% from solar and wind and nuclear and other places. So to manage this, there are a couple of things which we can think about: smart grid, intelligent grid, storage. There is a lot of evolution in storage. As you all know, there are 3 types of batteries, like the lithium, the lead acid, and the flow battery for the larger projects. And the prices are coming down. The kilowatt hour today is 6 to 7 rupees compared to 15 rupees 5 years back. So there is a lot of changes happening which is going to support the grid. There is a lot of integration that is going to be required to manage this kind of variations in peak times, and also the generation variations. So in my opinion, a smart grid, an intelligent grid with a very efficient storage capability would be the solution in the coming time.
Thank you. Very quick question. Yes.
Sir, I'm Somnath Ganguly, a renewable energy consultant. Now, I have a question. This rooftop energy power plant is becoming popular in other states, particularly if you compare with other states. But why it is neglected in our state? Particularly, I'm thinking in terms of net metering. Net metering is so useful nowadays. So why it is not taking place?
Thank you. Would you like to comment on this?
I'd like to, sir, but it's, because we have Dr. Upendra Tripathi sir with us, so sir can shed a more light on that. But as you have mentioned, like why not in West Bengal we are promoting rooftop? It's not like that, because in the morning, even Honorable Minister said, because there is a program called Alosri, where you are going to install grid-connected rooftop in all government buildings as well as the school and colleges, because they have planned for 1,500 schools. So out of that, 500 schools has been covered. So yes, so there is thrust from the state government perspective to promote rooftop solar. But of course, because there is this, currently, as I have mentioned, we have currently undertaking one study with WBSEDCL to see what kind of changes is required into the existing distribution systems, and maybe a storage can play an important role, not only at the substation level, maybe at the consumer premises, like specifically for the ST consumers, or at the distribution transformer level. So we are also working on that. Things are in place. It's not like we are not promoting. Even from the regulatory side also, government, even WBRC is looking for feed-in tariff regulations rather to going for net metering. So that is also in one of the important steps they have taken. And maybe if Upendra Tripathi sir has any view, because he is one of the pioneering. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, all right. No, I will come to your question. What he said is absolutely correct. But you see, I don't think it's a neglect. You know what happens, anything new is always gets almost the last care. And maybe in this state, we are a little slower compared to others, quite possible. That's why we don't, Chennai has done wonderful work, in fact, on solar rooftop. I am sure it's coming. I think next 5 years will see a complete change. And it's not just net metering, also it's prior to the grid. Also, you know that net metering is there already in Calcutta. The Park street lighting is all through net metering. And that's why they don't say it's solar power. They say solar-based street lights, not solar-powered street light. Anyway, I think we will have to stop it here. One question, all right. One lady must ask a question. Okay, all right, please.
Thank you, sir.
Quick.
This is Amrita from KPMG. So my question is to Professor Asadi. Last year, I think there was a solar eclipse in Germany, and the whole world was watching to see if the grid still remains stable, and it did. The eclipse passed away fine, and there was no power outage, nothing. So what do you think, how Germany achieved that? Because as far as I know, they still do not have a capacity market there. It's still in the, I think, in the process, but it still doesn't exist. So how do you think that it was possible for Germany to have no outage even during the solar eclipse?
Yeah, first of all, I think practically they solved it in that way that when they had their surplus, which is a major problem because when you have a lot of electricity produced that you cannot store and you cannot do anything with it, then you dump it on your neighbors. So they did. Poland, Czech Republic, and they were not happy about that, and they required that they're going to solve that because they cannot export their problems to others, and from time to time when they have shortages, they import it from the neighbors, although it was maybe not clean or efficient or so on. So this has been there and it is there, and what they are working with is storage, and the storage is a costly problem. Power to gas is one of the issues they are looking into right now and developing the technology so that the surplus of electricity is used to split water into hydrogen and oxygen and use the hydrogen as a fuel, either directly injected to the grid, but to a certain level it is possible, but beyond that then they need to use CO2 and that hydrogen to produce methane, to put it into the grid, so to say, to the gas grid, so that they can store electricity in terms of gas and later on produce electricity using the gas. However, the efficiency will become very low, so it is about maybe ending up with some 20% electrical efficiency, because first you lose when you are converting to hydrogen, then from hydrogen to methane, and from methane to electricity again. But it is the alternative is zero. This one is 20%. So 20% is better than zero. So if you have the economical muscles and the network, the gas net grid, which is already in place, it has been built and invested in, and it has a flexibility in a way that you can change the pressure of operation in the gas grid, and thereby you can have different amount of energy in the same volume of the pipes they are there. So they do have many options right now, but of course they are working hard on the storage issues, so that they need to solve that before they can rely only on their own production of renewable and without outage and so on.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor. I must close the session now, but before that, a very quick question and a quick answer requested from Mr. Malhotra. I read it somewhere that in the month of April 2017, PTC got a request to sell about 3.2 billion units, and a buy was only 1.2 billion units. Maybe figure is somewhat wrong, but in that range, almost double or near about that. How do you handle such a situation from PTC?
Sir, like you said, the figures, again, I think there's something not quite right with those figures, but the reason for losing some of that potential trading or consumption opportunity partly has to do with grid constraints, sir. We still face those things. Part of the time it is also the preference of utilities to go for one-day power as against, say, a 30-day power.
But you do that also, isn't it?
We do that, sir. So the point is that you may supply what is ideally a 30-day kind of contract in that gets substituted by parts in one-day contracts, and not the entire capacity is bought. So it comes back to that same point of what is the performance obligation that the distribution company is bound by. So I think these are the two major conditions. Having said that, I can send you the breakup of those variances, item-wise, to say how much lay in each of those.
I would love that. Thank
Right.
you very
Thanks.
much. Thank you very much. We must close this session now. Thank you all for your cooperation and interaction. And I would like to thank the speakers very much for keeping to the time. You have done wonderfully. Thanks a lot. Just one sentence I would like to say, that President Obama, when he was president, said that the nation which cannot control its energy cannot control its future. So we as a nation all have to control our power. There is no doubt about that. Thank you very much once again, all of you.
Thank you, sir. So we will get back here at 2:40 to continue with the post-lunch sessions. I would request Mr. Alok Mukherjee, our past president, to please present mementos to our speakers. To Mr. Malhotra. To Mr. Bansal. To Mr. Dotto. And I would request Mr. R.N. Lahiri, Managing Committee Member of the Bengal Chamber, to please come to the stage and present a memento to Mr. Alok Mukherjee. Thank you, everybody. So we are breaking for lunch and see you again at 2:40. Thank you. Welcome you back to the post-lunch session, Disruptions for Innovation in Energy. This session will be chaired by Mr. S. Radhakrishnan, past President of the Bengal Chamber. And we have with us as speakers Mr. Aditya Sharma, Senior Vice President, Asia Boson Energy SA from Luxembourg. Mr. Mitesh Dhanak, Managing Director, Synergist Limited, UK. Mr. Debanjan Bandopadhyay, Partner and Lead ERM's Operation in Kolkata, ERM. Mr. Anirban Ghosh, Chief Sustainability Officer, Mahindra Group. May I request Mr. Radhakrishnan and the speakers of the session to please come and take their seats on the dais. May I now request Mr. Radhakrishnan to please take the session forward.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Generally, any session after the lunch is a very difficult session. Some people are still having lunch. I hope they will come and join us. And people who are present, I'm sure the speakers will make it interesting for you so that you don't feel tired. As we are currently witnessing shifts in major industries as a result of rapid technological innovation and industry interconnectivity. The amalgamation between transport and software, for example, has resulted in Google Maps, Waze, and Uber apps that we all interact with to move from point A to point B. By now, the narrative on the rapid information of the electricity sector, driven by the 3 Ds, decentralization, decarbonization, and digitization, is all well known. Far less, however, is known about how this transformation is going to materialize and when and who may be the ultimate winners, and the incumbents' traditional business models are disrupted. Not surprisingly, there are as many predictions on the end game as there are analysts and experts following the developments. Here, the role of prosumers is interesting. Prosumer, of course, refers to a consumer who is consuming part of the time and producing at other times, say a homeowner with a rooftop solar panels. These empowered prosumers can reduce their dependence on the services traditionally delivered by the assets and infrastructures upstream of the meter by increasing their reliance on distributed energy resources, which by definition are provided, consumed, and possibly stored locally. With the expected emergence of affordable storage, some prosumers can go for a step further by becoming prosumer managers. This they can accomplish by storing the excess generation for use at later times. Add a host of new intermediaries with the sophisticated capabilities who can aggregate flexible loads and distributed generation, which can be effectively bid into wholesale markets, and one can see the power of aggregation enabled by the automated machine-to-machine communication. Further advances in artificial intelligence are likely to lead to proliferation of services offered by such intermediaries who can provide valuable services to grid operators and distribution networks while better managing energy consumption and reducing participants' energy service costs. But innovation and disruptions don't end there. There is increased interest in transactive energy and peer-to-peer traditional facilitated by platforms that allow consumers, prosumers, and prosumers to better manage their consumption, distributed generation, and storage, and not just internally, but with their neighbors amongst their peers. We are here to hear from our experts, speakers today, where these roads lead to. We have with us Mr. Aditya Sharma, Senior Vice President, Asia Boson Energy SA, Mr. Mitesh Danak, Managing Director, Synergist Limited, UK, Mr. Debanjan Bandyopadhyay, Partner and Lead ERMs Operative in Calcutta, Mr. Anirban Ghosh, Chief Sustainability Officer, Mahindra Group. Each speaker will have 10 minutes each for their presentation. After that, we will have the question-answer session. Can I now request Mr. Aditya Sharma, Senior Vice President, Asia Boson Energy, to give his presentation.
Hello, I bring greetings from Luxembourg, small country next to Germany, Belgium, France. It's a green country. I come from Kolkata and I'm very pleased to be amongst all of you again. I am also well connected to Mr. Radhakrishnan over the last 20 years, and I am very honored, sir, to be again in a panel where you are the moderator. Thank you very much for the opportunity. We are in interesting and difficult times at the same time, at the same point of time. Excellent. So we are in very interesting and difficult point of time at the same point of time now. Yesterday, in the inauguration session of this, the visionaries, they made some very profound statements. Energy industry is at a crossroad again. Decarbonization is the future. No loss of heat. And we have seen even zero waste to landfill. We have got our co-speaker, Mr. Roy, he had mentioned about that. So it has been, and then it has been life will not be same again. If we see that why it has been so, then I think that we need to go back in the history a bit and see that what has been going into the power sector over the last few decades. We know that Indian power sector has been quite stressed out over the past few decades. Generation cost remains unrecovered across states. The aggregated transmission and distribution losses continue to remain out of control. We also know that the financial costs to serve rural consumers are high. Actually, the generation companies are not able to, and combinedly with the distribution companies, are not able to recover the cost of supplying the power to them. And which we have seen, therefore, that explains that why the plant load factors continues to be low, because the distribution demand there is no demand from the distribution companies. We heard it earlier today as well during the day. So ultimately, over the years, we have seen that the utilities have got accumulated losses of approximately 28 billion euros over the years, and it's going up and down. But it's a very grim situation to be in. As a nation, India has certain crucial additional challenges as well. We know about waste. We know about crop burning issue in Punjab, Haryana belt, which causes tremendous amount of pollution in Delhi. We are aware of that the load of air conditioning is going to increase tremendously in India. We already heard that how the peak time has changed in Delhi because of the air conditioning load. And the consequential effect of that is going to be on the infrastructure which is serving this load now. So that's a problem which is sort of a time bomb just ticking away. And then we know that there is a huge water shortage problem in India. Now the key point comes in that how do we take care of these problems? We heard earlier today certain wish list from the leaders. Windows for fossil fuels is closing. Indian economy is will grow up by 5 times very soon. Then there was a wish list about that how to make 4 E's, economy, energy, and engineering and environment work together, and that will give a solution. How could we do away with the limited approach which we have got now, and therefore we can bring about transformation in the energy sector? Then there was a wish list about we need future-oriented structure. And then our Honorable Power Minister today made the statement that make science a boon, not curse. It was in the context of coal. Now, Boston Energy, the company I represent, works on meeting all of these expectations at low total system cost. We work on providing solutions which tick all the 17 boxes of UN Sustainable Development Goals. Our distributed solutions overcome the challenges of the past. We have to recognize at some point of time that the centralized generation and distribution model has been at the heart of the key challenges which we are facing today, be it air pollution, be it shortage of water to a great extent in the areas where they are operating, and be about high transmission and distribution losses. And then we also heard about that why are we only thinking about coal to power? Why are not we thinking about coal to heat? Why we are allowing so much of heat to go waste? And the heart to that is again because we have got the centralized model of energy generation and power generation and distribution, we have to allow the heat to go waste. But there is a way out. Given that the technological advancements which has happened, given that we have empowered ourselves with new ways of looking at everything, about harnessing the power of coal, local solid fuels, we could possibly now, time is coming in, when the world can move towards distributed generation. Earlier it was not economically possible to go for that. So everything evolved towards economies of scale and quite a centralized generation model. But now, given the technological evolution, this is possible. And our company represents this new technological shift and modeling shift in the energy industry. It works on the simple principle of end of waste heat. We know that when we are in a generalized, centralized model, there is no use of thermal there. It just goes waste. But the moment we move on to decentralized model and we come near to the consumers, it is possible to use that heat which goes otherwise waste and to convert it into either cooling, which is easier now because of the given technology which have come in, and through a network distribute to the nearby cold storage center, shopping mall, or the housing complexes. The moment we do that, we are taking away the load on the infrastructure because of converting electricity into cooling. Because for cooling, not necessarily one needs to have the electricity. It could be done the other way around in a smarter way, which will cost much less, which will ensure that India can move towards energy security. So the way this works is that we are aware of NIMBY communities. NIMBY is not in my backyard communities. No one wants to be near a centralized power generation plant. So that's called NIMBY. But we offer a solution called IMBY, in my backyard solution. That means it will be such a clean, noiseless, pollution-less solution that the neighborhood will not mind having that solution nearby. And that has got additional advantage of skill development, creating employment, other additional factors which come into the opportunity to give back to society. Now, so how does it work? This is a simplistic model of how we go about doing it. Our model for India is bringing utility as a service, which means the capital expenditure for setting up the plant and the facilities and everything around it, the operating expenditure for that remains with us. And we offer